Let me start saying, I think that this is a very important moment, right? If you really think about it, and if you step out of what's happening right now, there's a few 20-year-olds, a few Greek students that came together to put together this amazing festival that's pushing the boundaries. Greece has never seen such a big festival, and it's all happening in a student-run, in a non-profit way. Please join me. Let's give a round of applause for Lefteris and the team. This is amazing. We definitely need more initiatives like that. Speaking of amazing initiatives in the tech space and the AI space, right? And before we jump into our conversation, you just announced a partnership with ElevenLabs, which is the news of the day. And I would love you to give us your perspective. What did you announce? We signed a partnership. Greece has a partnership with ElevenLabs as of today. Please give us the updates.
Well, first of all, this is amazing. I mean, congratulations, Lars, your team. I mean, what a great gathering. We've never had as many people in this space. And for those of you who are not aware of the symbolism behind this beautiful building, this is where 50-something years ago, we signed the accession treaty where Greece joined the European Union as its 10th member. And I think it's only symbolic that now we're talking about AI, the future, about the dynamic Greek startup ecosystem, and about the partnerships that we can create with amazing companies such as ElevenLabs. So what we did today was to expand the partnerships that we established with leading AI companies to improve public services. The idea is very simple. We take one of the leading, if not the leading, voice AI chatbot companies in the world, and we try to integrate their technologies in delivering public services through our gov.gr site. So instead of typing your request, you just talk to the site, and hopefully you will get meaningful responses and engage in constructive conversations. And of course, we can also use this technology to enhance the way we promote our tourism. And one last but very interesting dimension of these partnerships relates to the preservation of some of our more interesting linguistic dialects. So what does it mean for an AI agent to be able to speak in Cretan dialect, and how difficult would that be? And how can we preserve these exceptionally interesting linguistic dialogues? We can work with ElevenLabs to do that. But I should probably stop here and let our partners speak more about it.
They all sound pretty exciting projects. Mati, what's your take on it?
First of all, thanks for having me here. It is an iconic and incredible venue, and just feels so right to speak about the future in here. Prime Minister, thank you for your leadership and for your team's leadership on building and digitalizing a lot of the work, and that has helped create the foundation to now bring the AI. From our perspective, the clear and one of the key elements is that as the intelligence, as the models become available, how we actually access those models, how we access this intelligence will be dependent on the communication with that technology around us. And that's why we're so excited of bringing that to the public services, building on the 2,200 already existing ones, amplifying tourism, and then preserving the languages. But also, maybe on the more personal to ElevenLabs note, Greece has been a big part of our journey now for a long time. One of our first enterprise customers was from the region. But today, a lot of the research and engineering work is led by Angelos, who is from here, and a lot of our deployment of how we bring this technology is led by Pieris, Greek Cypriot.
Wonderful. So I know, Mati, you're an Endeavor entrepreneur. We've been working for many years together. Prime Minister, you've supported everything that's going on in the tech ecosystem for years. I think that we're going to have a very nice conversation. And I know, Mati, that your favorite number is 11. So I'm going to start by my introduction by doing this on 11, right? So we have a rare combination of speakers here. From one hand, Mati has built an AI company, AI-first company, and he went from 0 to 11 billion valuation in only 4 years. And on the other hand, we have a man who is responsible in leading 11 million people into this AI era and into this fast-changing world, right? So I think that it would be fascinating to hear your thoughts, and that combination makes it very unique. Prime Minister, speaking of initiatives and partnerships, Endeavor works in 50 markets. We are all around the world, and we're working with governments all over the world. I can definitely certainly say, that this is one of the most active, most ambitious, and fastest thinking governments that we're working with around the world. You've done so many initiatives and so many partnerships with amazing companies. And I'm wondering, what's your personal ambition? What's driving all this activity, which is an outlier, if you ask me?
Well, for those of you who are kind enough to visit from abroad, you should probably know that, in 2019, when we first were elected into power, Greece was a complete technological laggard. Across the board, the provision of public services was abysmal, tons of bureaucracy, people complaining about the way you interact with the state. So we made the digital transformation of the state our #1 priority, and I think we have been able to leapfrog many European countries in terms of delivering a very convenient and user-friendly interface with the government through our gov.gr site. And I think this was a big success, but obviously it was just the beginning. When I was starting to think about AI and the transformational impact it can have as far as the business of government is concerned a couple of years ago, I told myself, this is really an opportunity to dramatically increase the productivity of how the government actually does business. And if I were to use a technological analogy, is that we need for the government a new operating system compared to the one we have been currently running. Which means, of course, a complete rethink in terms of processes, in terms of data management, in terms of the level of ambition that we have when we use technology to deliver public services. And we have a strategy, we have a ministry in charge of artificial intelligence. We have a data policy, which is absolutely critical when it comes to leveraging open data. We have an open data policy. You can go on our gov.gr site and look at the number of open data sets that we have made available only over the past 2 weeks. This is an incredible treasure for many of the companies that may be joining us today who are looking for well-curated, high-quality data to develop their own models. And we also intend to be at the forefront of smart regulation in terms of regulatory sandboxes and the other tools that we can use to encourage companies to work with us when it comes to the delivery of public services. So we really want to aim high, and we want to use this AI revolution as a real tool to prove to people that we can put technology to good use, especially when it comes to public services. I mean, think about someone, an older, woman who's interacting with the government, trying to get her pension issued. I mean, a process which has been greatly streamlined. Being able to talk to a smart and friendly AI agent to walk her through, what is a complicated bureaucracy is a transformational change. And that is why I believe that this digital transformation has been universally, across the country in Greece acknowledged as a great success, and we're just at the beginning. I think we're just scratching the surface of what we can do.
I love this. Let's go to Mati, and I want to ask the audience here, who has used ElevenLabs once in the... Okay. I also want to ask you a little to... This was a place that was meant for people to train, not to speak, and it's incredibly hard to make this conversation, so if we can please lower the noise. So Mati, what I love about your origin story is incredible, right? You went from a dubbing problem and a pain point into building a $11 billion company and leading voice AI and audio AI in the world, right? So for those who don't know this origin story, can you please walk us through this origin story, which is fascinating?
So first of all, it sounds like we have few more people we can bring to our users, but also we are very actively hiring here in Greece. So if you want to join ElevenLabs, it's a perfect cue. Let us know. The story brings from something very peculiar. In Poland, where I'm originally from, if you watch a foreign movie, all the voices, whether that's a male voice or a female voice, get narrated with one single character. So you have one voice narrating everything without any emotions in the intonation. And as you can imagine, it's a pretty terrible experience and something that, of course, as you think about the future, will change. You will have the plethora of original creativity, storytelling come across a global audience. And that's what opened our eyes to this problem, that how we communicate with AI, how we communicate with technology will change. It will be available across all modalities, across all different channels, and something that we would love to solve. So we went through the journey of starting the company in 2022, creating the first human-like voice model, so a model that could narrate and bring the context across based on understanding of what's written and get the intonation, emotion across. And then over the years, as a company, combine those two facets, so combine the research work and the product work under one hood. On the research side, this expanded to all models across audio, so speech-to-text and transcription, orchestration, even music, to bring this all together. And then on the product side, we've built ways for you to create and turn stories into powerful audio experiences or interactive experiences that you can speak with voice agents around you.
So just to get a sense of the growth that we're talking about, right? ElevenLabs had 4 million in ARR, so that's annual revenues, at the end of 2023, right? And in 2024 and 2025, you went from 4 million to 500 million in ARR, more or less. And that's an incredible growth. This is probably one of the fastest growing companies in the world right now. And I'm wondering if you have reflected on what are the pivotal moments, what were the wow moments, right, on this incredible journey so far. I've heard a few. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, we've had very quick growth with it. It was a great traction from taking 20 months to reach first 100, and 10 months to reach 200, 5 months to reach 300, and hopefully that continues now with 500 onwards. So the pressure is up. But the constant thing is that the problems you need to solve will change over time. And initially, our key piece was making quality of the audio sound good. And we released this article, the first AI that can laugh. This was the first time technology could replicate the laughter. And for us, this was the biggest moment at the time. But over time, what was happening is this transition from static to interactive. And that was one of the key pivotal moments that happened in 2024, where technology not only could narrate, but now you can interact. As we think about the future, and the biggest pivotal moment, and Prime Minister mentioned that too, it's going to be how you combine the IQ and EQ. Can you get it to understand the emotional side? So if the person is stressed, you can reply in reassuring side. If it's someone that wants to speak slower, you speak slower. So that's what we obsess in the next things. Can we pass the Turing test for voice interaction, but have that emotional understanding, that EQ element as part of it too?
Wonderful. So, Prime Minister, countries like companies have limited resources. Over the last few years, we've done wonders in digital transformation and AI readiness. The country is truly poised for scale. And I'm wondering, on this situation, we have to take some bets and pick our battles, choose our resources. So what's the AI bet of Greece? Where are you focusing on your resources and your priorities?
I would highlight, 3 areas. First of all, be a leading country in terms of using AI smartly and responsibly to provide public services. Develop a sovereign AI infrastructure that leverages the interest to invest in the country, whether it means our new supercomputer, which is in the process of being built in Lavrio, Daedalus, or even encouraging big data gigafactories, such as a project which is launched by the Public Power Corporation in Western Macedonia. So we want to be part of the sovereign European infrastructure space, and I think we have enough investment opportunities and a well-thought-out strategy to generate interest for these types of investments. And of course, we have to speak honestly about smart regulation. I know that quite frequently in Europe we are perceived as a continent that does not foster innovation to the same extent as the United States does, and this is very true in terms of supporting startups, making it easy for startups to do business in all European countries. This concept of the 28th regime is absolutely critical to encourage, for example, young Greek companies to be able to do business in Poland without having to go through many regulatory or bureaucratic hurdles. But at the same time, we should also be very much aware that there is another side to AI that needs to be properly regulated. He mentioned the concept of a smart AI agent being able to emotionally engage with the person he's talking to. So if an old woman asking for a pension is angry, the AI should be able to pick this, agent should be able to pick this up and try to manage her emotions. But this is only the one side. If we're talking about AI companions and children and teenagers, then we're talking about a completely different story. And as I feel as a leader responsible for leading the effort to regulate social media access for kids and teenagers, because doom scrolling is a reality and it is robbing our children and our teenagers from time and from the ability to develop social skills, the same will also be true about voice, especially voice sort of integrated AI agents and companions that will engage with our kids and our teenagers and build this complete hallucination that you have a relationship which is a substitute to a human relationship. This, for me, is simply not acceptable. So I would expect that the next frontier, after we address the social media problem, will be to also look at the way we create a smart space for our children and our teenagers to use AI. We are already trying and experimenting in our schools to do that. For example, we have partnered with OpenAI to provide tools that will help in a regulated environment our kids learn better, help our teachers to manage their workload better. This is the good side and the positive side of AI in education, but we should be very aware that every technological revolution also has a dark side that needs to be properly addressed and regulated.
Are there any areas that you would like to see Greece growing faster? Are any areas that we should be leapfrogging? And
I think that when we sort of created our AI strategy, we looked at the horizontal provision of government services. We looked at certain verticals which are of great interest to me. Healthcare, for example, where I think the net benefit of AI is clearly positive, and we're working with many healthcare startups and giving them in a smart way access to our data to help them develop solutions that could be exported out of Greece. Defense is another space where lots is happening. I can tell you that it's always a struggle when we talk to our generals and our defense departments to encourage them to think not just in terms of the big platforms, the ships, the airplanes, but to really understand the transformation that AI is bringing about in the battlefield. And now we have a structure, a government structure that can give contracts to startups to build prototypes and to test them within the confines of the Greek armed services. Civil protection is another area of great interest. Using AI for specific weather prediction, flood management, fire management. These are some areas where I really want to go deeper and also encourage companies to partner with the Greek state to develop solutions that could then be exported abroad. And of course, nourishing this amazing, ecosystem of technology startups that is emerging out of Greece. I think what's happening in Greece, and a lot of credit goes also to you, Panagiotis, and to Endeavor, has been truly transformational. If I just look at the dynamism, not just in this room, but across the startup ecosystem, this country has a lot to offer. It has amazing talent. I would please like you to give a big round of applause to all the volunteers. They wear the red shirts here. They're all from our universities. We have more than 400 of them that make this event possible. But we're really changing the culture of how young Greeks view entrepreneurship. It was a little Soviet. It sort of reminded me of Poland in the 80s. Speaking about entrepreneurship and about profit in a Greek university was considered sacrilege, even a decade ago. This has changed, And I think it's a big transformation that is taking place in Greece.
We really have changed, and I think that one thing that also has changed is the number of founders. We're seeing a growth of founders in younger generations. So, by show of hand, who is a founder here? Who has started their own startup? Okay, we could be doing better, but Mati, for the founders in the audience, right, or the founders want to be in the audience, which I think we're going to be more. What is the advice that you would like to give them about building at such growth, at such scale, right? At such quick, fast pace?
I think the one thing that doesn't change, and it applies as much to company building as I think to so many other areas, and is consistent across the whole journey, is listening to your customers, really going deep into understanding the problem that you are solving and working backwards from there. And there's no other and better way than to actually work deeply with the companies, with the people you're trying to serve, understand what's needed, and build the technology for that. Just building for technology's sake, I would advise against, and always being close to that loop. For us, so I mentioned the origin had one of the enterprise customers, and that was a company here, Caffè Marini, which was narrating a lot of the articles. So here too, we figured out how to build a product based on that feedback on how to make narration for articles a lot better over time. And I think this continuously applies because the behavior changes. I wanted to add one other quick thing to the previous question you mentioned, which is, I think in this AI world, we are in transition where, of course, increasing amount of content is AI generated, increasing amount of conversations are AI generated. So authenticity will not be, this will be the most critical and more important thing that you have ability to understand if the content is AI, and for children, you potentially block and don't serve it or have other mechanisms. And for people, all of us, you have an ability to understand whether you interact with that, which we are investing a lot of time in as well.
Wonderful. So let's go to Europe for a second, right? Because, Mati, you're building one of the most successful AI companies in Europe, right? And you're pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the European ecosystem. Prime Minister, you're shaping the policy. You're one of the thought leaders and the people who are pushing Europe for more ambition, right? And more pro-tech, pro-business attitude. So I want to ask you both honestly, are we winning the race or are we just watching it?
Let's say we have work to do on numerous fronts. When we speak a lot in Europe about a term which is very technical, savings and investment union. What does this mean? The ability to raise private capital in Europe to support companies that are growing very fast. So I would not like, successful companies, such a one that you have built, to rely exclusively on US venture capital and private equity funding, nor would I want for you to consider as the only sort of viable option a listing on a US stock exchange, because simply in Europe we don't have the scale to be able to raise capital for these types of companies. So this is a big project for us. It's technical, but also operationally very important for rapidly growing companies, because we speak a lot about public funding, European money, but we don't speak enough about private funding. We have tons of savings in Europe, and these savings usually go to the US only to be reinvested in Europe. This doesn't make much sense, and I'm speaking here as a European. And my second observation would be the regulatory framework, the regulatory environment. I think we need to pick our regulatory battles smartly. Do not over-regulate, but if there are issues where we feel that we need to be more aggressive, such as, for example, the protection of kids and teenagers, issues of mental health, we need to double down on those areas without creating an overall landscape that is simply too complex for companies to do business in Europe. Again, the 28th regime can be transformational, but we want to make sure it's not just an empty shell. I want to make sure that if you register under the EU Inc. Legal regime, that if you want to do business in Poland or in Estonia out of Greece, you will be able to do it seamlessly without unnecessary bureaucratic complications. This is what will create a truly single market for digital services, which is absolutely necessary for our startups, because we speak a lot in Europe about the single market, but the truth is that it's still a work in progress.
Thank you. Mati, what are your thoughts on Europe?
The big supporter of the 28 regime, and maybe that's an avenue one day to hopefully do a list or list in that regime a company here and give back to that ecosystem and be in that ecosystem. I think the only other part I would add is now with AI, with technology, you can build from Europe, but you want to build for the global market. And you want to be leading on the technology in that global market. I think this is an important part. And I sometimes think these two get conflated, where building for Europe and building from Europe are the same thing, which they are not. You can really build from here. I'm a big optimist, but I also, in our 550 people, most of the people are in Europe. We think they are some of the most incredible talent. As you think about the talent pool that's available, these are some of the most ambitious people that are looking for also ambitious challenges to join and build something generational. So that's, from my perspective, we have the foundation. We just need to now activate, take more risk, and hopefully get more of the public market capital too.
That's wonderful. So, final question. I want to take us next year down the road, right? It's 2036, and I'm wondering, if you know, what does Greece, the world, ElevenLabs, looks like if we get AI right? So I would love you to say a few words about, you know, what's the big picture and what can be a problem? What can stop us from achieving that big picture? Looking 10 years down the line, Prime Minister.
I'm afraid my crystal ball does not go that far. Struggling to figure out how the world is going to be in 2030. What I can tell you is that AI, with all its tremendous productivity benefits, is going to create a massive disruption in the labor market. For example, the service that you're offering is directly competing with traditional call centers. And we need to be cognizant of this reality. So for me, the biggest challenge would be to smoothly manage these changes in the labor market in a way that we do not turn people against technology simply because technology is going to eliminate jobs which are currently here and will no longer be necessary in a new AI world. So for me as a policymaker, this is something of great importance. And that is why thinking about the shape of the labor market and preparing our young our young kids and our students for this changing labor market is so important. So trying to predict where the changes are going to actually take place, where the new opportunities will emerge, because there will be tremendous new opportunities when it comes to jobs, and managing this transition is for me a very, very important priority, because what we do not want is a general perception that the benefits of AI accumulate disproportionately for capital or for the companies, in particular the big tech companies. If this happens, it will inevitably create a social backlash. We need to be very much aware of that, and I think that all companies, active in the AI space need to be aware that there's also a social responsibility dimension to their work. And of course, it is our job, as is the case with any technological revolution, to make sure that we accept the benefits while managing to the best of our abilities the downside and the risks.
Thank you. Mati, your thoughts on the future?
I also hope that and believe that the technology revolution will help amplify the human potential rather than replace it. And I hope that a lot of the work that is happening will kind of allow the technology to bring it back to our terms, to let it behave on our terms, instead of how I feel has happened for generations, where technology was crafted for technology and you need to learn its language. Now we are flipping that equation. But to live on something concrete in the next 10 years, I do hope there will be a $1 trillion company that does have that wider ecosystem impact coming from Europe. Of course, I hope it's either ElevenLabs, one of the people that raised the hand, or one of the people that might want to raise the hand next year. But I feel that's possible and hopefully doable.
Yeah, and if I may add one final point, coming back to the question that you previously asked, what advice would you give to founders, because it's also pretty hot today. The first lesson my professor in entrepreneurial management gave me when I went to business school was that success in the entrepreneurial world is 10% inspiration and 90% perspiration. So we've done our perspiratory work today, as we're all sweating a lot. But thank you for bringing this amazing group together.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as of today, Greece is working with one of the coolest and most innovative companies in the world. It's a great reason to celebrate, other than Panathēnea, of course. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.